Arizona is the first state in the union to fully pass school choice. Hurricane Ian is apparently a racist, and there are some gay people in New York that want the government to pay for them to have children. All that and more after the intro.
Hey, Jeff, how's it going?
It's going, man. It's been a week. You and I both had a week.
Yeah. Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to whoever is watching and whenever you're watching. We're going to jump straight into the news. We're going to start with this story coming out of Arizona. Arizona is the first state to enact like universal school choice, which is a pretty big deal. It's something that conservatives have been fighting for a long time. And it's something I've personally taken a long time to get on board with. So there was an initiative that was passed during the summer to have school-wide, universal, statewide school choice. And there was a referendum to overturn that by the teachers union, and it failed to get enough signatures in order to do that. So what Arizona is going to be doing is they're roughly going to be giving parents $6,500 per child to send their child to wherever they see fit to educate their child. Parents will be able to send their children to a school of their choice rather than be assigned to a school based on location. And the teachers union, they led a pretty strong campaign. Teachers unions and lobbyists are very powerful in every state. It's a large body of employers. And they failed to overturn this decision. So before we get into it, Jeff, what do you think about school choice?
Right. So we should really go get into the details because there's a lot of misinformation that people take advantage of when it comes to school choice. What happens, and I don't know if this is exactly how it happens in Arizona. Like each state is going to try and do it somewhat differently, but the idea is that each child that you have that is in the school system because the government funds your schools. Rather than give the money to the school is going to be tied directly to how many children are attending the school. So like if I live in a city A, but the school system in town B is much better, and I am able to get my child to that school, then I can, then that school will receive the funding from the state that is associated with my child. And this puts a very important element into the education system that is missing in its current state, and that is competition. It is very easy for failing school districts just to continue to fail with not much changing. You and I know
what's the incentive. What's the incentive to get better if
right.
You're constantly failing and nothing's changing? Like I said, I took a while to get on board with school choice, and I'm still not at the point where I don't know if I would call myself a universal school choice person. I don't think it's fair to force parents to send their children to schools and school districts that are failing. If your school is not serving your needs, then my tax dollars should be able to follow my child. And that's the argument. I know what everybody's worried about is they're worried about, well, we have public education. They're going to take all these funds and they're going to go to a private school. Well, not necessarily. They might just be going to a different public school. I have taught in strong school districts where the area school districts weren't as good, and I'm sure if parents could, they would send their kids to the school district. I know of some parents who actually would buy rental property in the school district that I taught just so they could be paying taxes and send their kid to that school district. Like that was because that is how our school districts are funded. I know in Mississippi, I don't know how everybody's school districts are funded everywhere, but it's funded with housing tax. That's how we fund our school districts here. And I like the idea of the dollar following the child. I'm not okay with, well, I just don't like so-and-so, or my kid didn't get the teacher that they wanted, so we're going to go over here. So if you put a requirement of the kids in a failing school district, therefore they can go somewhere else, I think it kind of cuts down on that. But I don't think in whole this is a bad thing. I don't think Arizona is doing a bad thing. And I think if I'm going to be logically consistent, they're doing right by their tax base.
Right.
My dollars should follow my kid.
Yeah. So, and I mean, obviously you're just talking about your perspective and your concerns, and we need to do that. But like, it is good that a state is doing it full bore, because the
Yeah.
way that America is supposed to work is that states are supposed to experiment. And if those experiments prove fruitful, other states can see that and adopt it.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the American experiment. I mean,
That's
our
called
source
federalism.
federalism.
Yeah. So I again, I don't know what's going to work perfectly. But more school choice than what we have now is a good thing. I don't think that's
Yeah, I don't
as
think it's a
up
bad
for
thing.
debate. We also
And
have
I
a unique
was,
experience in Mississippi. We don't have as much of a problem with unions.
mhm,
And unions are particularly nasty to deal with.
mhm.
You know, we have our share of incompetences in the school system, but the fact that our teachers aren't typically unionized is a good thing.
Students deserve a chance, and they deserve a chance at a great education. And when I was teaching at the university level, my first year and a half, I really went in with an open mind. Kids from anywhere can succeed. They're going to do great. And then I started seeing a pattern, the pattern that people have talked about for so many years, talking about wisdom. I would have kids introduce themselves day one and tell me where they're from, what they did, blah, 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 blah. And if you told me the kid's zip code, I could have told you whether they were going to, I'm not going to necessarily say do well, but I could tell you whether they were prepared for college or not. And it was all
Right.
based on where they're from. And you and I kind of have some experience with this. Our hometown school district had school choice. It had large high schools within it. And if you could get yourself to the other school, if you could get yourself to the other elementary school, to the other junior high, to the other high school, you could go. There was nothing
Right.
stopping you. But like that was within a school district. But that created, like you said, competition between the two large high schools, two large public schools in the city. And that's only made that better. That's only made that school
Right.
district better. That's only made those schools better. And competition is good.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like and when we were in high school, like the school named after the county was typically thought of as the more successful one, but the school named
Mm-hmm.
after the city was improving while we were
Mm-hmm.
there because of that. Like, I mean, I lived across the state border. I had access to an address in town, but I mean, my dad was able to get me to school. I mean, so I went to that school still. It's essentially the same concept. Is so long as you
Mm-hmm.
can get your child there, that school will be funded with the tax dollars that are associated with your child.
And people make decisions based on incentives. If it's a failing school district and there's no incentive for the school district to get better, then why would it? So this is an opportunity to incentivize excellence. And
Right.
we have become mediocre just as a society. We don't value excellence anymore.
Yeah.
And this is an opportunity for people to compete for students. That's what you
Right.
want. You want people to compete for students.
And you bring up the issue with, well, everybody's just going to send their kid to the private school. Well, I would imagine that there's still going to be additional costs associated with going to a private. Do private schools already get funding from the state? I don't know.
Every school's different. Every state's different. I know in the state of Mississippi, like you have to offer a certain number of scholarships to underprivileged people in order to have access to any kind of state funds. And so, not always. And sometimes these dollars might not cover the tuition costs.
So, like, the private, I imagine the dollars still wouldn't cover what the private school. My point is still going to probably cost more than just sending them to the public school. But there has to be that option, because we talk about where we grew up, where we currently live, the school system is bad. And the only alternative for high school is the private schools.
Yeah, and so, like you said, that's where we live.
There is no other public school that it is easy to get your child to.
But there are other school districts within a driving distance. And so if we had some kind of choice where it's like, well, this school district's bad, I'm going to send my kid to this school district and my
Yeah.
money's going to follow my kid. Again, incentive. It's
Yeah.
all about incentive. And I don't have a problem with if you can get your kid there, send your kid there. That's called buy-in from the parents. And that's what we need. We need more parental involvement in education, not less. You don't send your kids to school so that the school will educate your kid. That's not how this works. It is your responsibility to educate your child.
Right.
Public schools, private schools are tools.
But expanding choice is a good thing. I mean, undoubtedly, because if you are the parent who cares, the parent that gets involved, you may have the options. Well, I want to stay here and I want to improve my local school. That's great. There's also the parent that is thinking, I am stuck at this crap hole of a school system, and I would love to just be able to get my kids somewhere where they can get the help they need. Yeah. So good on Arizona. Mississippi is late on the uptake for a lot of this type of stuff. I don't know that we'll pick up on I don't know, like state politics. I'm not super familiar with, and I know education is a particularly hairy issue around here.
Like we don't have unions, but we have some very powerful public school lobbyers.
Yeah,
and
it's a big bureaucracy.
Our legislature's so afraid of the R word. Like, y'all are being racist. You send all your kids to private schools. That's why you want to do this. Those kind of critiques affect them greatly. And so I don't see them pulling the trigger on this anytime soon.
Yeah, Mississippi's not going to do it until you have to see success, and then you have to see like 5 more states around Mississippi do it before Mississippi will do it.
We're not going to be an outlier. No, we're not going to be a trailblazer. No.
Yeah. So, if you have, this is one of the things I know people are really passionate about and opinionated about. So if you do have an opinion about this, I would love to hear it. It's not my area of forte. I'm a dumb guy with opinions on the internet. It is Steven's area and a lot of our close friends' area. So we've had discussions like this before. But please let us know what you think. All right. We moving on?
Yeah, let's move on.
All right. So everybody knows about it. Hurricane Ian has made landfall in America. Florida has been particularly devastated. Let's see. It looks like 51 Americans have been reported killed so far, mostly from drowning. Hit landfall at Fort Myers. Winds up to 150 mile an hour. Category 4 hurricane. Is that current? Let's see, because I know they're constantly upgrading it, downgrading it. Up an 8-way tie for the 5th largest hurricane to hit the U.S. Katrina, just for comparison, some of you may be too young to remember Katrina. This was 150 miles an hour. Katrina was particularly devastating at 174 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So, what? I don't care about weather. Like hurricanes are like a natural occurrence around here, and obviously we care about the effect. We know of communities and organizations that have gone to help people. Was it Rita in Texas? Was that one in Texas?
Harvey.
I don't know. Okay, yeah, Harvey. That have been particularly devastated. We've sent people. We've sent money to people. Obviously, we care very much about that. But I mean, like, it's hurricane season.
And it's been relatively mild up to this point, if you really think about it. I mean, it's been hurricane season for a while now. We haven't really heard much. And like we said, we're in Mississippi. Like, hurricanes happen every year. We prepare for them every year. Like it's a part of life for us. And I'm not taking anything away from what they're experiencing in Florida. They're in the same boat. You don't move to Florida and then get shocked when there's a hurricane.
Right. But loath to let any tragedy go to waste. The Democrats are obviously using this in several different ways to attack their political opponents, most notably Ron DeSantis, who is the governor of Florida. Um, and it's par for the course. The Democrats politicize death. They take tragedy and they turn it into they take tragedy for the small person and turn it into victory for themselves. And so they love this kind of stuff. I don't know what they get more excited about. I don't know if it's hurricanes or school shootings or what, but they get real excited when stuff like this happens because it's an opportunity to advance their agenda. So
they are terrified of Ron DeSantis. Terrified. Like I don't get on Twitter very often because it's a cesspool, but just go watch him cook food or go watch him help a woman load water into the car, and everybody's like, it's a photo op, it's a photo op. I'm like, I'm pretty sure all politicians do things like this and why don't we just stop saying it's a photo op? Like maybe they're actually genuine.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, we do have a ruling class in this country. The sooner you accept that reality, the better. And your ruling class has to be seen interacting with people. That's just a fact of life. But Kamala Harris was doing. Now, there was some confusion on the internet about when this clip was from. And a bunch of people, some bad actors, saying that was pretty old. This clip is from 2-3 days ago, tops.
Yeah.
It is at the DNC Women's Leadership Forum or something, whatever. And she is being interviewed by a far leftist, and she is talking about aid, disaster relief aid in general. But if you go back a few minutes in the clip, I don't have it in this particular clip, they are talking specifically about Hurricane Ian. Let's watch Kamala Harris.
It is our lowest income communities and our communities of color that are most impacted by these extreme conditions and impacted by issues that are not of their own making. And so absolutely. And so we have to address this in a way that is about giving resources based on equity, understanding that we fight for equality, but we also need to fight for equity, understanding not everyone starts out at the same place. And if we want people to be in an equal place, sometimes we have to take into account those disparities and do that work.
And women. And women.
Well, this was the Women's Leadership Forum.
Yeah, but what? So hurricanes not only racist, but they're sexist. They go after women more than men.
All right. So, Stephen, what is, for the people at home, what is equity?
Equity is the concept of, I'm not going to say paying retribution, but overpaying underserved communities over more advanced communities. Basically, if we're going to give money, we're going to give money to the black and brown people before we give it to the white people. That's what it is. Or the trans person, or the whatever it may be, the underserved community. And you can define underserved however you want to. Is it your one-eyed, one-legged transgender half-sister who's half Puerto Rican? It's a never-ending spectrum of victimhood is what it is.
Right. It is a way for Democrats to justify giving more money to the people that are more likely to vote for them.
And I was thinking about that whenever you were playing this clip. South Florida has got a lot of Cubans and a lot of first-generation Americans whose parents were in Cuba. Are they going to give them the money? Because Cubans are by and large Republican, and so
that's a great.
You talk about equity. I'm interested. Who are you going to give this money to first?
That's a great point.
People further south.
Yeah, that's a great point that you bring up, and I'm going to say that no, they're not going to favor Cubans because Cubans have what was the study that came out a few years ago called it "quote unquote" internalized whiteness.
Yes. Yeah. They're not they're not people of color enough. They may look brown, but they're not really
Latino.
Hispanic. They're not really brown.
They're Latinos, but they're like white Latinos.
Yeah, they're white Latino. And that's literally what people are saying. Like, we're not making that up. Like you said, studies come out and that, you know, they're Latinos, but they're more white than anything. Yeah. So they're not underserved because of
what they mean
it's the argument that is made.
Yeah. What they mean by underserved demographics are Democrat voters. That's what they mean by underserved communities. Democrat voters. And you know, there's no hypocrisy. Again, I like to preach on this. There's no hypocrisy here. It's hierarchy. It is like our friends get money, our enemies do not. That's what it is. So
it's any opportunity to attack a Republican. You know, when we brought up Katrina, like you said, some of our viewers might not be old enough to have experienced that. I was in high school. Were you in high school?
Yes, I was a freshman.
Yeah, so I must have been 11th grade for me. I was in high school, and we basically had to start over our school year because we had so many people come up from the coast because of how devastating it was. But it took maybe a day, 2 days before you know, George Bush is racist because he's not doing this or he's not doing that.
Yeah,
and FEMA was doing all that they could do.
Yeah, that was our first peek into how insane Kanye West is. Anybody remember Kanye West was doing something with Mike Myers? I don't even remember what they were doing, but they were talking about Hurricane Katrina. That was probably some sort of fundraiser or something. Kanye West looks at the camera and says, "Because George Bush doesn't care about black people." Oh man.
We were ill prepared. I mean, I'm going to say that we were ill prepared in Mississippi and Louisiana. And the same thing happened with Katrina that happens with Ian, that happens with Harvey, that happens with all these hurricanes. It's not the storm, it's not the winds, it's the flood water. So whenever a hurricane comes, it pulls all the water out, and you can see all these pictures of like bays being empty or whatnot. And then all that water comes surging back in, and that's where all the devastation happens. That's where all the lives are lost. And you can only be so prepared for an event like that. There were some miscues by FEMA. There were some miscues by MEMA. There were some miscues by whatever Louisiana calls their disaster, Lima. I don't know. There were miscues by those places, but none of it was based on racism. You know, they didn't go to the 9th Ward in New Orleans because they were racist. They didn't go to the 9th Ward in New Orleans because they couldn't get there.
Right.
Yep. So it's any opportunity to call someone a name to get you political clout, and it's just wrong.
And just I can't stand this use of tragedy to. But like we have to start playing this game because the side that plays to win will always beat the side that just wants to be left alone.
That's right.
And we have to, you know, learn to love the fight and this sort of thing. And on the off chance that any state leadership for any of those affected states is watching this obscure podcast, make efforts in the coming years to wean yourself off of federal help.
That's right.
States that deal with this stuff constantly need to be self-sufficient.
Yeah, and that's
when this gets worse, and it will, you will just be outright denied help.
One of the things my dad liked about our governor at that time, which I believe was Haley Barbour, anybody feel free to fact check me in the comment section, is George Bush wanted to come down and visit the coast, and Haley Barbour said, "Dude, I don't have time for you. I don't have time to show you around. I don't have time to make sure you're secure. Don't come see me right now." And that was a big moment for my dad and for a lot of people, because it wasn't that he didn't support the president. I mean, they were in the same political party. It was he was taking care of the people of his state first. And self-reliance is, like you said, it shouldn't be. But self-reliance is now a necessity because these political games are just going to get worse. And whenever they cut off the tap, that's going to be a problem.
Right. Yeah. All right. So... All right, you wanted to talk about this.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think I have
I
a
think
unique
we need to talk
perspective
about
here.
it. I think we need to talk about it. I should have called this a very ugly person plays a very pretty flute, but missed opportunity. So you want to say anything before we just roll the clips?
Well, most everybody, especially our age or younger, knows who Lizzo is today. She is a huge icon for many different reasons, and people on our side of the aisle, us included, don't like
Physically
the
and
fact that she's just.
figuratively.
we don't like the fact that she is basically naked all the time. Like, one, you're not very attractive. Two, cover yourself up. Modesty is good. And we need to teach that. Now, there's this thing about her playing James Madison's flute. James Madison, a lot of our founding fathers were musicians, and that's obviously a personal study interest of mine.
Right.
But she played James Madison's 200-year-old crystal flute, and the second clip we're going to show went viral. First clip didn't, and I wish the first one had. I really do. Play the first clip.
Okay.
That is very good. No one has seen that clip. She's playing Carnival of Venice, tune written 1830s-ish. It's classical in the sense that it's a classical genre, but it was written during the Romantic period. Very good piece of music. Very, very common. Lizzo is a skilled flutist. And yes, I said flutist. When I play flute, I play the flute. I don't play the flout. Just saying. She's very skilled. She took lessons for a very long time. I like the fact that we have a popular singer who's actually a musician, and I'm going to use that term actually. She's actually a musician, and the library. She is a classically trained musician. She took lessons for a long, long time. You could tell that's a couple of variations of Carnival of Venice. She probably prepared that for a senior recital or something like that. That was good. That was quite enjoyable. And I like the fact that she's using her notoriety to bring attention to what the Library of Congress has to offer. I know people who work at the Library of Congress. I know people who are musicologists at the Library of Congress. They have a huge collection of music, of artifacts, not just James Madison's flute, but they got harpsichords and pianofortes and all these different instruments that our founding fathers had, which is fantastic. So I love that. Good job using your notoriety to bring attention to something that is not as well known. Thank you. Now play the next clip.
Parental advisory.
Yeah.
This crystal is like playing out of a wine glass, bitch, so be patient. Bitch, I just twerked and played James Madison crystal flute from the 1800s.
Clearly a skilled musician. Why not show that off? No, you're going to twerk and you're going to break the cultural norms by twerking with an instrument that it's the first time anyone in our lifetimes heard the instrument played. Like, no one's heard this, and that's the way you introduce it to people. and this is what I call the blue hair syndrome. You know, you go to Walmart and there's somebody who's got like half their hair blue and half their hair black, and you're looking at them, and they look at you and go, "What are you looking at? What do you think I'm looking at? You dyed your hair blue. You did this outrageous thing, and you expect me not to look at it? You did this outrageous thing by breaking the norm of what that is, and you expect me not to comment on it. Come on."
So, first of all, while her performance in the first video was better, her attire still was not recital appropriate.
True.
Cover but that. It's a lot more clothes than she usually wears, as evidenced by the second video. And the point that really needs to be made about this is that the first act of the successful revolution is to desecrate and destroy all of the cultural artifacts of the previous regime.
Mm-hmm.
Always. It's why you see statues come down. It's why you see things like this. It's why you see, because the honoring of the family is a cultural artifact, it's why you see those norms being destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
It is the first act of any successful revolution. And they're pretty successful.
Yeah, well put. I mean, and it's not everybody, you know, you see this on Twitter, and conservatives' heads are melting because this unapologetic, big, beautiful black woman, it has nothing to do with her size. It has nothing to do with her color. I think she's a great flutist. She is better than me. To play that variation of Carnival of Venice on that flute's not easy. That's before mechanization. That's got cross fingering. It's got a lot of technical difficulties. It's what you could have done, and you chose to do ugly, nasty things. Like you could have done that beautiful thing on your concert, but no, you chose to do the other thing. It's just not okay. I mean, you're doing something outrageous and getting mad whenever we comment on it. You know, you're dyeing your hair blue and complaining when somebody stares at you.
Well, and
staring's not the problem.
Yeah, and the commentary is the goal. They want you to be mad about it. They want you to comment on it. They want you to clutch your pearls, because then they want to point at you and say, "Why are you clutching your pearls?"
Yeah, you know,
we talked about this. We talked about this in the entertainment industry too. This is why they, race swap a bunch of characters in Lord of the Rings, and then all of their advertising is centered on the Black Dwarf or the Black Hobbit, specifically so they can get comments about that change, so that they can then point to all of the quote unquote racists and thereby offset the fact that what they're making is not very good.
Yeah, and what she made on her concert was not very good, when she clearly could have done something much more graceful, much more elegant, and had, in my opinion, received much more praise for it. People would have been like, "Oh wow, Lizzo can really play the flute. Look at that." But chose not to go in that direction.
Lizzo dresses the way she does. She dresses the way she does, and she does the things she does specifically so you will tell her that she is wrong in doing them, and then she can act offended at you.
Yeah, well, that's what happened with what was that? Jillian Michael, the lesbian who does Biggest Loser. Isn't that her name, Jillian Michael? She commented on weight, and they were like, "Well, why can't you just say that she's beautiful? Why do you got to say she's beautiful for her size, or that she can move for her size?" And she was like, "Because it's not healthy. Have you seen her size?" And she made the point of like, "Is it going to be beautiful whenever she has a heart attack at 45, at 50, because she's not healthy?" And that was purposefully set up by media so that they can say, "Oh, well, you're just fat shaming. You're fat phobic." Right. No, no. I care about health.
They stir up artificial controversy. First of all, for the advancement of the person's careers. Lizzo had fallen out of the news cycle. This got her back in the news cycle, and she gets to piss on American culture while she's at it. Win-win.
Yeah.
And yeah. Who I was thinking, I had an example in my head of someone who did the same thing. I don't remember. I lost it. But
It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah. So, unless you have to go, I think we have time for both of our.
Let's go. Yeah, please.
Let's do it. All right. So, our next story. Forgive my crude banner.
It's not crude. It's funny.
So back in 2015, there was a big hubbub about an Army health officer who came out as transgender.
A health officer. Health.
Right. I think the person's name is Anna Gabrielli. I don't know. Gabrielian. It's a weird last name. But this person has now been charged with what is it? She's been charged with a HIPAA violation, essentially, but not treason. So during one meeting, so let me see. Let me go ahead and post this. I'm going to share this picture because I think it's revealing. All right.
It's like Tom Brady in a way.
Oh, okay. No, sorry. The Anna Gabrielian is his wife. This is a doctor at Fort Bragg, Jamie Lee Henry, who identifies as a transgender woman. Both of them have been charged in this. So immediate praise transgender major in the U.S. Army and their spouse, a Johns Hopkins anesthesiologist, have been federally indicted for allegedly trying to leak medical information on U.S. military members to the Russian government. So they thought they were giving information to someone an agent at a Russian embassy. Instead, who they were talking to was an undercover FBI agent. Now, I hadn't been the biggest fan of the FBI lately, but it appears that some of them are still doing their jobs. During one meeting with an undercover Fed on August 17th, Gabrielle, the anesthesiologist, the wife, reportedly said she was motivated by patriotism toward Russia to provide any assistance she could to Russia, even if it meant being fired or going to jail. The man, Henry, said, "My point of view is until the United States actually declares war against Russia, I'm able to help as much as I want. At that point, I'll have some ethical issues I'll have to work through."
I'll have some ethical issues that I have to work through. Not the fact that I'm being a traitor. Not the fact that I'm trying to help an oppressive, evil government. Not the fact that I'm basically a daggum commie. Just call me Red from now on.
What will happen to this individual?
Well, they should be killed.
Couple?
They should be killed. They should be arrested and tried for treason and found guilty. They should be killed. They've just committed treason against the United States of America for Russia.
I'm going to call it. They might be imprisoned. They might be.
They're going to lose their medical license.
It is. I question even that. It is possible they may face fines.
You can't not keep your medical license after doing something like that. You think that they'll keep it? Okay. Look. Okay.
We'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
They'll probably be fined.
Okay. I do take a little joy in the fact that it's the first openly trans person. I'm not even gonna lie.
Yeah.
Like, good, good.
Yeah.
I mean, and oh man, that picture, it's haunting. Like, oh, I'm gonna see that in my nightmares.
Yeah.
I mean, I might have some ethical problems that I have to work through. So it's one, you're violating your oath to give out medical information. That is violating your oath. So that should be That should be ethical problems already. You should already have a problem with that. Two, I can now give personal information about military, American military personnel to any country we're not at war at. You want to talk about radical?
Right.
That's
Private-
insane.
I mean, China's spying on all of us anyway, but you're not supposed to give the information to them directly. They're supposed to get it through
not
your
the
phone
enemy.
like everybody else.
I mean, you're actively support patriotism towards Russia. You know what would be better, Jeff? Send them to Russia. Give them a plane to Siberia in the middle of winter with no coat. That'd be better.
Yeah, I don't know. I question whether anything's. I think we are at the stage in our decline of the republic where we're just kind of gonna chalk laws up as to not applying to our friends.
It's despicable. It's despicable, especially with what Russia's doing right now.
I think that's because of the COVID lockdowns. If you think of any the kind of stuff that went on during the COVID lockdowns, a lot of those people should have been locked up. I mean, there were people that so the FBI has been up to some shady stuff, but like there were some that were involved in the plot, quote unquote, to kidnap the governor of Michigan. You remember this?
Oh yeah.
There was this fake plot, to kidnap the governor, and it sounded like the FBI agents were like involved in entrapment, like they were trying to urge people to do this so that they could have something to prosecute. Those people still work at the FBI, I think. Like I'd have to go back.
They're still being put in charge of cases. They're still having leadership. That one is now like the head officer at the Baltimore field office. Like, are you kidding me? You were involved with trying to entrap people to kidnap the governor. When they were like, "Whoa, you're going too far, dude," and he's like, "No, we got to get her."
We don't punish bad actors anymore unless they vote wrong.
Unless you're Ron DeSantis and you look at people and you say, "No looting in my state."
Yeah. One more thing about hurricanes: don't swim in poop water. Floodwater is poop water. Just to let you know, like.
Don't swim in poop water, yeah.
Don't swim. Don't you see these funny videos that you laugh at, like people on like floaties out in the floodwaters and stuff like that? Don't do that. That's gross.
Oh, don't do
Water
that.
is disgusting. I like to swim, but man.
Kind of like the picture that you just showed me. Disgusting.
Yeah. All right.
That is insane. I mean, how is that not Patriot Guantanamo yesterday? Like, they should be on a plane right now to Gitmo. That is Patriot Act level stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, like the other one we traded. What is it? Chelsea. What's his name? He was he betrayed some of his unit to the either Al Qaeda or, gosh, it's been a while. I don't remember his name. Forgive my very.
Yeah, find it because you lost me. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm lost.
Anyway, Chelsea Manning, that was it. Who gave U.S. secrets to WikiLeaks? But also was guilty of cavorting with people in Afghanistan or Iraq. But we traded a bunch of terrorists to get him back. And he's now a trainee, so like he's a hero to the left. It changed his name to Chelsea.
25 cents could solve all those problems. I tell people that all the time. 25 cents could solve all those problems.
So, they're treated with the kids' gloves. It's a real problem.
Yeah, that's a huge problem. Huge problem.
Speaking of some infuriating things happening with the LGBT community.
For shame.
Yeah, our shame segment this week, particularly because I have a personal vendetta against some of the ideas being espoused here. Corey Briskin and Nicholas Magapinto, something like that, are a gay couple in New York. They are quote unquote married. And they are both lawyers. Yeah. Briskin used to be a lawyer for the city of New York, and the couple is now suing the city for discrimination. Why? Because the insurance plans for city employees in New York defines infertility as people have always defined infertility for the purpose of fertility treatments. They have to define these terms, and that definition does not include gay men.
Well,
So
yeah.
So there's a bit to unpack here, but Briskin and Megapinto argue that they have a right to procreate the same way all other people procreate. Yes. And that the insurance is discriminating against them because they are gay.
You know, I'm going to agree. They do have a right to procreate the way other people procreate. Go marry a woman, lay with her, and have child. Problem solved.
I'm going to take it further
Because
back.
that's the way humans have always procreated for the history of humankind. That is how people reproduce.
Right.
Biology 101. Like, that's not even biology 101. That's like middle school biology.
Yeah. So there's a few things to go over here. First of all, and the way what they're talking about specifically in this case is surrogacy. They want surrogacy and IVF to be covered under insurance for gay people.
No.
As they apparently are for non-gay people.
No.
So let's go ahead and go over the many outrageous opinions that I have on this that are likely to get me banned from social media.
Yeah, let's get canceled.
Go. No one has a right to have a child.
Preach.
Because anything you have a right to is something that I have a responsibility to provide you with.
That's right. Keep going.
As the procreation of children involves two people, you do not have a right to have a child, because then any woman you want to sleep with would have a right to bear you. It would have the responsibility to bear you a child. This is something I've had to talk to my wife about, because we personally have dealt with fertility issues. And it's very difficult for people to get over that once you realize you have it, and just you have to come to terms with the fact that your life is not going to go the way you wanted it to. And I've had to have many conversations with her where I sat her down. It's like, no one owes us a child. You know, it's unfortunate, but that's our life.
But there's a huge chasm between where you are and where they are.
Certainly, I'm getting there.
Yeah, I mean,
gay people not only don't have a right to have a child, but should not have children via adoption, via surrogacy, via previous relationships with previous natural relationships. Gay couples, quote unquote, married or not, should not have custody over children. Lesbian couples should not. The best thing for a child is for a mommy and a daddy to raise them.
Yes. That's again, basic truths here.
Really offensive to say in today's age, but men are not women. Women are not men. You need one of each in the household. And that's that. Like,
God's plan for the family: husband, wife, child. And you're right. Sometimes there are unfortunate situations where a spouse dies and someone has to raise a child on their own. No one would ever say that it is just as easy to raise a child on your own as it is with your spouse. You would be crazy to say that. Like that. Right. That's just not true. God's design for the nuclear family is what it is for a reason.
Yeah. Exceptions prove the rule. My wife and I are an exception because we do not have children. I mean, like the norm that everyone should strive for is that people who are able should get married and have children. Lots of them, I would say, because you have to replace yourselves, first of all, and because the family unit is the basis for all society.
I'm glad you brought up the fact that y'all are the exception that proves the rule, because if you're an average couple, husband, wife, you courted for a while, you dated, now you're married, and you want to start a family, and you're trying, and after a year you go to the fertility doctor, whatever those are called. I don't know what those are called, and they say you say,
OBGYNs usually.
okay, well, we're having a hard time conceiving. What do we need to do? They run some tests, and one of you's infertile. The response, whenever you have to break that to friends and family, is the point that it is the exception that proves the rule. Because the response isn't, "Oh, yay, look at you. You don't have to worry about children ever." No, it's, "I'm sorry. I know that must be heartbreaking. What can I do to help you go through this?" It's the exception that proves the rule. And that's a basic truth for anyone. That is a basic truth because that is how God designed husband and wife. You can't get upset if you choose to get married to someone that is the same sex as you, and then you can't have kids. Well, yeah, biology.
Right.
Then you expect me to pay for it.
Yeah. Here we go. That's my next point. The government should not, like insurance in general, should not be paying for surrogacy treatments, IVF treatments, whether you're straight or not. We are a pro-life program. We are pro-life individuals. IVF is a, by and large, anti-life procedure. Now, there are exceptions that I am aware of that very, very few and far between, where people of my pro-life disposition have said, we are going to do IVF. We are going to use each and every embryo that is created because each and every one of those embryos is a life that needs to be preserved. I know a couple who did this. I used to work with one. But that I still like, that's the line my wife and I drew. Like, we are not trying that. We will try pretty much most things up to that. And we did. But no one, like, if you are going to do this procedure, you do it, and you do it for each and every one of those babies that you are creating.
Yeah,
I would argue I would argue I don't see how God doesn't have a problem with that. like I just it's a, even those that use all their embryos, I have a tough time believing that's okay. I think if you want to,
because now you've suspended a human life in limbo. If you have a frozen embryo that is unused, that's an ethical question that conservatives certainly have to deal with. I will appreciate, and I'm going to applaud you on your logical consistencies, especially when you were talking about, like in our previous episodes, when you've talked about, well, we need to help Americans first. Those people have been dealt a hard hand. They weren't given what we were given. Sucks, but that's life. That's exactly the approach you've taken in your personal life. Like, we're going to try, we're going to do fertility. We're going to do what we can up to this point where we have problems with it. And then at that point, we've just been dealt a tough hand. Sorry, that's life. Right. And that's called being logically consistent. And people don't do that anymore. So I'm going to applaud you on that. And it sounds like you're being a very heartless person, Jeff. And I don't think that's what it is. I think it's people need to accept biology and accept limitations. They need to accept that there's a plan for us on this earth, and that if you choose to go outside of that plan, that is your choice. Don't expect me to pay for it. Don't expect me to support it.
Right. And this is sort of arguing against the other side, but and it's not really relevant to this article. I have similarly strong feelings about people who purposefully choose not to have children. If you are healthy, if you are a man, go get married and have children. If you are a woman, go find a husband and have children. You lazy millennials. Jeez.
Yeah, talking to our generation here. Yeah. Not wanting to bear that responsibility.
Because the gay people are going to start doing it, and our society is going to get worse. There's the cancellation.
You're not wrong.
That's us getting.
You're not wrong. It is what it is. We're going to speak the truth, whether people like it or not.
Right.
That's how it goes.
So, yeah, I went off on a tangent. So, do you have anything further to say about this?
I'm gonna make a prediction, okay, about this particular case we're talking about. New York pays for it.
Yeah, and
They pay for it.
Fallout from that is that other left states will start covering it as well.
Well, see, that's what we need to realize is whatever starts on the coasts makes its way.
Right.
That's how it works. It slowly filters its way in. You think all those people that are moving from California to Texas, all those people that are moving from New York and Pennsylvania to Florida and South Carolina and Georgia, you don't think they're bringing their political baggage with them?
Right.
To Tennessee, they're not bringing their political baggage with them. It will make its way to Middle America. That's just how it is. And I wholly expect New York to pay for this gay couple to have surrogate children or whatever treatments they want to have children, because they have a right to children. People don't understand the difference between privileges and rights, and that's a conversation for a different day that we could have a whole podcast on that, the difference between a privilege and a right. Just a whole podcast on that.
Well, I think that's a good point to end on. You are obviously right. We're always right here. It's the name of the
Always
show.
right.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in this week. We will be back next week. We'll see what the week has in store for us, and we will see you next time. Thank you so much.
Yep. Be blessed, y'all.